Thank you. Kathleen, could we have a roll call?
Commissioner Blanco,
Here.
Commissioner Hernandez, Commissioner Lopez,
Here.
Commissioner Seifert,
Here.
Chair Dickerson.
Here. Just really quickly, Ms. Newton, on what topic are you asking to talk on?
Probably the Mercado.
Mercado, okay, that's fine. Thank you. Okay, approval of the Planning Commission minutes of September 4th, if we've all had a chance to read it, or if anybody has any comments or wishes to make the motion.
I move that we accept the minutes of, what is it?
September 4th.
September 4th. Yes, September 4th. Thank you.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? And abstention?
I'll abstain, I was absent.
All right. And then public comment period. Each member of the audience may address the commission on any subject within the commission's business. Each member of the audience and each subject is limited to discussion of 3 minutes or is otherwise directed. This is for items that are not already on the agenda, so we'll cover your slips here when we get to item number 2. Does anybody wish to say anything prior? No? Okay, we're going to go to the consent calendar. The consent calendar is approved with one motion. These items are read only on request of commission members. Should anyone, including members of the public, wish to discuss or disapprove any item, it must be dropped from the blanket motion and considered as a separate item. We do have speaker slips for item number 2, so we're going to go ahead and drop item number 2 from the consent calendar. So we need a motion for, unless commissioners want to drop any other item, we will need a motion for item number 1 and item number 3.
I move that we approve item number 1 and number 3 on the consent calendar.
Second.
Okay? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Let's move on to item number 2. So let's start off with a presentation, I guess, from staff. A brief presentation, I gather, or would you like to hear directly from the public?
We don't have a formal presentation on this item. We would like to hear from the public on their comments, and then we're available to respond.
All right. We'll go ahead and start off with Becky Jo Deutsch. And yes, that's correct. Yep. That's right. You can go ahead and give her 3 minutes.
Yes, I'm Becky Deutsch, and I've lived here for over 40 years.
Ms. Deutsch, can you put your address in for the record,
Yes,
please?
certainly, 422 Tupelo Court,
Thank you
Santa
very
Maria,
much.
93454. I'm not a bicyclist, but I'm strongly in favor of people bicycling in Santa Maria as much as is safely possible. Santa Maria doesn't seem to really encourage this a lot, but we did have an opportunity to have some significantly safe bikeways in the Enos development, which didn't materialize. I don't know that anybody advocated in favor of them, but it was pristine land, and we could have had separated bike paths all over that land, and we don't have any. So to address that, I am asking the panel to significantly consider that you do put multi-use trails on that northern edge that the developer said is going to be used as a public trail, and also along College and around Betaravia, wherever there is land that isn't developed. And by a multi-use trail, I mean a 10-foot wide trail with hopefully delineated in the middle so that bikes stay on one side, pedestrians on the other. In addition to that, the Battles bike trail goes right by the new junior high, and there's no connection to that bike trail to the junior high campus, which is also a shame. My own hope is that all children, all the school-age children, maybe even from 3rd grade, certainly through high school, should have the opportunity to bike to school. As you know, the advantages are multiple, and we should give them all the benefit of being able to do that to the greatest extent possible. That bike trail from Battles accesses quite a few residential areas, so children from those areas could easily bike to their new junior high. But there's a wall there, and there's no access from the bike trail into the campus. What could be done, because the whole area where the junior high is now being built has a sidewalk in place, and then what I consider a construction fence. It's a chain link fence. I think that'll be coming down. I'm thinking that it would be quite easy to just pour another 5-foot strip of cement along the current sidewalk to make a multi-use trail along that entire perimeter of that campus, and make it a multi-use trail for both pedestrians and cyclists.
Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Mr. Gallus.
Joseph Gallus, 631 Daniel Drive. My initial concern is to make sure that there is no change and Inger does not get punched through. We've got a nice quiet subdivision. We don't need to have access out to the shopping center through Inger. If it's necessary to put in a access or fire department, put in one of their crash fences so that if they have to get to the back end of that shopping center, that would not be a concern. I just don't want to see any additional traffic going up and down Inger. It's already, it can be sometimes difficult because we have some young drivers who don't know that the speed limit is supposed to be 25 miles an hour. And I would imagine opening up Inger to go through to college would result in a lot of people thinking that the speed was 35 to 45 miles an hour. The other thing that kind of bothered me in reviewing this here is that this was approved some time ago. You now know what's happened with the rest of the build-out along Betaravia. We still don't know what effect all the car dealerships are going to have moving into their new area as far as traffic load, as well as at times people going back and forth to the new elementary school. The traffic mitigation fee amounts, I don't know if they're a statutory amount, but I would think that you should perhaps reconsider increasing those, because this particular building will put a further traffic strain on Betaravia. And that is already, well, the traffic engineers could probably tell you, but I thought any time that it took you 3 times to get through a signal light, it made it a Class C type intersection, which would mean we don't want that on Betaravia. My view is that traffic mitigation fees might be increased on this particular facility to see if you can improve the flow of traffic on Betaravia. I don't know if that's possible or not, but it would appear that they're going to be putting additional load on the area. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gallus. And finally, Ms. Newton.
Hi, I'm Nancy Newton. I live at 1898 Sequoia Drive. I came to listen to what the projects were this evening, and I noticed as I looked at the project map that the northern perimeter of the project, it crosses the end of Inger to that corner that conjoins to the cemetery district land. I live right on that corner, and we've had some vandalism that has gone unattended for several years now, where we've lost a part of the perimeter wall. And I've contacted the cemetery district, I've contacted the PD and filed a complaint, and nobody wants to take responsibility for taking a look at repairing the wall. I don't know if it's my responsibility to repair that perimeter wall, or if it's someone else's. I maybe am thinking that it's put on the back burner because of this project and some renovation that was planned for this area, rather than doing a repair. They would wait until the project came to this phase. So I'd like some attention put to evaluating the vandalism that was done. The wall is down, a section of the wall there that conjoins to my property, that I think is the perimeter of my property. And the city actually came out and removed the wall and removed some shrubbery and things, because people were complaining not having access through that area. People jumped the wall and traveled through that area from the area next to the theater and things coming across. So there's constant traffic flow in and out. People enjoy walking through there. I know residents of the community to walk along the fields and walk their dogs and things, but they keep crossing over that area. They were walking over the down fence, and it was a hazard. And so the city came out and moved the wall after we asked them, are you going to remove it additionally to the shrubbery? So if someone can take a look at it and give me a decision, do I need to repair it? Is this something that the city is responsible for? Is this something that's going to be addressed in the development?
Great.
That's all.
Thank you very much, Ms.
Thank
Newton.
you.
Okay, can we hear from staff regarding comments from the public?
Sure, Ryan Hofstetter, Planning Manager. So to address some of the comments and to give some background on this project and what is being reviewed this evening is it's a time extension for a previously approved project at this property. And the request by the applicant is that the permit be extended, and they've been working with us as of a couple weeks ago to submit building plans to move forward with a project here. There's a new owner that's looking at building here, and so they're picking up this entitlement, and the permit would expire this winter, and so they need a little bit more time to get those building permits in and pulled. So we've been working with them, and with this time extension, we're asking the extension to go till October of 2020, a year from your commission's hearing tonight. So it's a little bit different. We asked for a different time frame, and that's in the staff report. It's on the website. I apologize that the printouts didn't work in your binders. However, we are asking for October 2nd, 2020 to work with the developer to get the building permits pulled. And we're not asking for any changes or beyond what was already approved on the site. And to address some of the comments for circulation and bike paths, this area is under a specific plan, the Enos Rancho specific plan, which approved the layout of all of the infrastructure for this area. So this project fits within that, and it's not proposing to make any amendments. As far as the traffic mitigation fees, I'm going to ask that Public Works address that item. And then as far as Ms. Newton, I'll look into the wall and her concerns and see if there's something we can do further for that and help her out.
It sounded like Ms. Newton
Yeah.
just was looking for a definitive answer, whether it's her responsibility, the city's, the cemetery.
You'll have to look at the exact spot where
Right.
she's, I'll have to work with her directly to look at the spot, and then we can help her out.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Can we hear from Public Works there?
Mr. Chair, the growth mitigation, the engineering staff is in the process of updating the growth mitigation fees. So there's public workshops, and I can provide you my business card, so you're welcome to attend. The next hearing will probably, workshop will probably be in 2 weeks, 2 weeks on a Thursday. So I can provide that information. Mr. Gallus had a question or a concern about Inger. I'm fairly certain that the council acted on removing Inger from the circulation element, so Inger's not going to go through. As far as, I can help with the wall question too, and I could provide my business card for assistance on that.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you very much. And are bike trails provided in this specific plan? I mean, in this particular, or has, Yes, no?
Sorry, I cannot, Mr. Chair, there are Class 2s that are provided, Class 2 bike lane. This is a striped bike lane. I use it quite frequently, so I'm well aware of the bike paths. There's actually, and I couldn't tell you how wide the sidewalk is there, but it's pretty wide, but it's 5. Thank you.
Yeah. Perhaps you can provide Ms. Deutsch your card, and the two of you can discuss the
Yeah.
bike paths.
Yeah, no problem.
And there we go.
Sounds good.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you all. Thank you very much, all. Any other questions of staff regarding this particular item?
Yes, in the discussion in the report,
It stated that the commission can choose between a revocation or an extension, so we have to choose today.
Staff recommends the extension. However, that is an option should the commission decide that it's been long enough and it's time to say no to an extension of time for this application. They'd have to go through the process again. The commission could do that.
And you've already provided the 30-day notification to the owner?
We've been working closely with them. This kind of started several months ago with a notification that their permit's expiring, and we need to determine whether or not this is going to move forward. So yes, that was submitted in a letter to them.
Okay. And then if we do agree with the extension, you're saying it would go from 1 year from today?
That's correct. That's what we're recommending.
Okay.
Okay. And how many extensions have they had? Is it 3?
They've had, I believe, at least 3. I think it was originally,
2012?
yeah, yes. There's even a 2011, PD 2011 permit. So it's, we were originally looking at it for revocation when a letter was sent to them. But we've recently found out that there's a potential new owner of the property that is working very closely with us now to move it forward. So in light of that and are wanting to work with them, we said another year is what we would recommend, nothing beyond that, to hopefully see this come to fruition. And if it doesn't work out, then we would come back and recommend revocation.
So it's staff's basic thing for use it or lose it
Yes.
for a year? Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay. We're going to need a motion of one kind or another.
Go for it.
I move that we approve Enos Ranchos Mercado permit amendment at the northwest corner of Betaravia Road and College Drive with the extension, which is 1 year from today's date. So that would be October 2nd, 2020.
I'll second that motion.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstention? Motion carried. Thank you all for coming out and speaking on this. Item number 4, Orchard Street Corner Market Plan Development Permit at 1334 North Broadway. Can we hear from staff? Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I am as well. I was, my client is south of there and worked on a joint
That's fine.
sewer
Okay.
project through there.
We are down to 2. I know you would like to return. Are you leaving?
Yeah.
You should. Okay. Go home, enjoy your life.
We just have
Yeah,
comments, right?
Yeah, exactly. Have a nice evening. Oh, by the way, she said you were here. Yeah, that's right. All right. Oh, that's all right. Here you go, Kathleen.
All right. Good evening, Cody Graybell, Associate Planner, and I'm going to be discussing PD 2019-005. Some quick background on the project. We're looking at a remodel of the existing corner market on a developed site which contains a motel as well. The project site is at the corner of North Broadway and East Orchard Street. And some of the surrounding uses include, just to the north of this site, we have senior housing and adult daycare. To the south, there's vehicle storage and vacant lot. And then to the east, we have some single-family residences and multifamily residences. And then to the west is the North Broadway corridor. So there's a drive-through donut shop. There is an RV rental business, various motels.
Cody, could you speak into the microphone a little bit more?
Okay, yeah, sure, sorry about that. Okay, and then the site itself is zoned commercial, and it's surrounded by various commercial and residential districts. A couple items to briefly point out here. As conditioned, the 2 palm trees are going to be removed, and they're going to be replaced with 4 street trees. And the applicant has requested to keep the non-conforming pole sign located here. Staff has conditioned the project in order to limit the scope of work that can occur to the pole sign because it's non-conforming. Essentially, no structural modifications are allowed to extend the life of the sign. It's essentially maintenance within the existing face of the sign. So rust removal, painting, those types of maintenance measures can occur.
So they cannot electrify it, or is it already electrified? Could they neon the sign or not?
The sign, it looks like it had been electrified at one point in time, so
They could if they want to then.
we developed some conditions that provide a framework for what they can do within those parameters because it's non-conforming. So we've set it up so that they could clean up the sign and essentially almost bring it back. So those are in there for you.
Thank you.
And regarding the overhead utilities, they are going to be removed from the site. It's going to look a lot nicer. We've conditioned that the parking lot be resealed and restriped, so that's going to be a very nice improvement. Another major issue is that the market is actually obstructing the right-of-way currently, and the remodel itself is going to move the market outside of the right-of-way completely. So as you can see, as I mentioned, the market is going to be completely on the project site. 23 parking spaces are required, and the applicant is requesting a reduction of 1 parking space. They're going to be providing 22 spaces. And this primarily is because there's some non-conforming parking that is existing over here in the southeast corner of the site that's being converted to a common area that's going to have concrete permeable pavers, a couple picnic benches, some nice concrete planters. So while a couple parking spaces are being lost in this conversion, it's going to really improve the site as a whole. And then access is from North Broadway into the center. So this is the original elevations that we looked at in the study session, and the architecture is an Art Deco style. One thing that I'm going to touch on is that we've created a condition of approval to basically increase the height of the parapet up to the first step, and it'll be clear in the next slide coming. And the rationale here was some of the rooftop equipment was going to be exposed to view at the street level, so we wanted to just beef up the parapet a little bit. And this is the revised elevation. These yellow bars demonstrate how the parapet element is going to be bumped up a little bit to beef up the screening of any of the rooftop equipment. And then here's the original design from the corner of Broadway and Orchard. You can see that there's these voids where, again, rooftop equipment could be highly visible. And then this is what is currently being proposed. There's much more parapet material here, which will just help screen the rooftop equipment. Quick discussion of the landscaping. As mentioned, there's going to be palm trees removed along here. 4 trees are going to be added. A total of 9 trees are going to be implemented into the site, and it's just going to be a really nice improvement. So there were some conditions that were requested to be removed by the applicant that I was going to briefly discuss. As you can see, Public Works had 5 different conditions that are being proposed to be removed. And staff had no issue in discussion with removing these conditions. The fire department had a condition as well, and then Parks and Rec had a condition that needed to be revised. There was an original discussion that the pole sign might be removed, and in that case, we were going to have them place a tree where the pole sign used to be located, but given that the applicant is keeping the pole sign, there's no longer space for 2 trees along Broadway. So we just needed to modify that condition. So tonight, we're recommending that the Planning Commission by motion approve the amended permit PD 2019-005, and I'm now available for any questions that you may have.
Questions?
Could you go back to the last slide, please? Remove condition of approval number 43 from the fire department. Is that the motorized gates?
Yeah, so I think there might have been a little confusion. There is no motorized gate at the site,
Right,
so
I've
it's
never
just
seen
not
it.
necessary.
Okay, so that's why, okay,
Yeah.
that's a good idea. Thank you.
Commissioner Blanco?
And then one thing, just to clarify, is that planning did work closely with Public Works in addressing the conditions that were removed. And David can speak to any concerns that are specific to Public Works related conditions.
So I guess my question might be that, just in general, what were those conditions without reading them in a lot of detail? And what was the reason and justification for removing them?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Blanco, actually, we can go one by one if you like, or just in general.
Maybe just summarize. Yeah.
Basically, in general terms, the plan that was submitted fulfilled the obligations that were for the conditions that were initially proposed. Some of them were just code requirements, and didn't feel like they were necessary to be in there because they are code requirements. But overall, the design of the project fulfills the obligations of the conditions that were initially established.
Further questions? No? As far as the parapet goes, is it high enough at this point that it will fully hide all of the roof equipment that is going to be put on?
So yeah, what we did is we looked at the roof plan that was submitted, and we determined the highest point of any rooftop equipment, and then we created a condition that allows us, during the plan check submittal process, to work with the applicant to ensure that the parapet will screen the HVAC. So it'll take looking at a roof plan when building permits are submitted, just to verify.
Okay, all right. But in essence, it's your intent to fully hide that it shouldn't crest over the parapet
Right,
anywhere.
yeah. I believe our condition has language that states it needs to be screened.
Great. If nothing else, we want to hear from the applicant. And if you could state your name and address, please, for the record.
Good evening, Commission and City staff. I'm Jason Tamura with Urban Planning Concepts. I'm here to represent the applicant in this project. We've been working closely with city staff and Public Works and gone through the conditions, and we think that they've done a great job. We want to thank them for all the hard work they put into it. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have, as well as the architect. But at this point, I think the staff did a good job presenting the project, and I hope that you vote for approval.
Thank you very much. Questions of the applicant?
The North Broadway elevation doesn't have the stars in red, and what's the reason?
That was in
for-
the old plan, and that was just they will be red.
So the intent is that
It's
all of-
uniform all the way around.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blanco? I have a quick question, and it's not specific to this project. Is this owned by is the property or the business owned by the same people who own which one? The Boone Street Market?
Yeah.
Next up to bat?
I could probably speak to that. Brian Schwartz, Urban Plan Concepts.
Hi, Brian.
The property is owned by the owner of the hotel. The Boone Street Market is owned by this applicant, who is then looking to remodel this this store.
So I just had a quick question. We're going through for approval on this project, and it's been quite a number of years, and I don't think a single nail has been put into a wall over on Boone Street for what is a lovely Art Deco project. Can you give me an update on that? I mean, is this planning on being done before the Boone Street, or are they both, these plans are just figments of everyone's imagination?
I agree with you. I think the Boone Street Market is an excellent Art Deco project, and this is a nice enhancement as well. We hope that both the projects will be coming forward soon, but I can't really speak to the timing of either one of them at this point.
Oh, so you don't really know how long it's going to be before the market is done either?
That is correct.
Okay. All right, thank you very much, Brian. Okay, if there are no further, yes, Ryan?
Just in case it's helpful, for the mechanical equipment in the roof plan, so the top of the mechanical equipment is just over 16 and a half feet. The top of the parapet is just about 17 and a half feet. So there are cutouts still in that parapet. So if you're on Orchard Street at the back of the building, looking on a perspective towards Broadway, perhaps the lowest part of the cutout would be about between 15 and 16 feet, so pretty close to the height of the mechanical equipment. So it's possible you could see the very top of it. So I wasn't sure if that would be helpful, but I think it's, based on these numbers, it looks like it's pretty well covered.
All right, thank you. Close enough. Yeah, okay. Any further questions of staff at this time? All right, or the public? Then we will bring the public hearing to a close, and any discussion or motions by the commission?
We discussed this in a study session, and I think it's a fun little project. I'm excited to go there. It's going to certainly change that side of the street. I'm excited to see it happen. I hope it happens soon, and I think I can vote for this project. Thank you.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yeah, I actually, with the revisions that were made to the elevations and the architecture, I think looks really good. Yeah, at the study session, it was a little bit odd to me, the design, but now it's really kind of grown on me, so I think it looks really good. I actually really like the sign, to be honest with you. I'd love for the sign to look like this, because it, in that picture, it doesn't, if you were not able to touch it, it's not going to look like this. So the shape of the sign is different here on the elevations than it is existing. I'd love for it to look like this. I'd love for it to stay that way too. So I really think it really gives it good character and just overall looks really good. I had questions about the Public Works conditions of approval, but I didn't have a chance to read them in detail. The one that stood out to me a little bit was 20, and the fact that the 20 requires that the building be moved, to be out of the right-of-way, which is kind of the foundation of the design. But if we're striking that condition, is there a reason to strike it? I guess it just was kind of interesting to me in reading that. And then 21 also, I mean, this just seems like a standard condition that you got to submit your public improvement plans for review and approval by the city engineer. So I'm still a little confused now, having had a little bit of time to read them a little bit more as to why we would be eliminating those. I understand it's fundamental to the project, but is there any good reason to remove them? Maybe that's still a lingering question I have after looking at them a little bit closer, so.
We have staff comment on that?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Blanco, they were removed because it complies. They were initially there because it was the original building was in the right-of-way, and it didn't comply, but since the removal, it does comply. The most significant point that we were looking at was because the building is encroaching into the right-of-way, as you saw in the picture, and so they've complied. They've done that. They pulled it out, and they've responded to the site distance requirements, and so that's. So the reason why they were struck is because they fulfilled all the requirements of the conditioned.
Okay, I just want to be clear that that's the case. It just was a little odd to me, I guess, that we would be removing things that were kind of fundamental to the project, but if they've been addressed, then I feel comfortable with that. Yeah, other than that, I really, it's grown on me. I think it's a good project. I'd like to see it move forward. Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so the sign. Commissioner Isu Blanco brings up a very good point. So is this a modification that's accepted? The sign that you have depicted on the, can we do that? Is that accepted? Or are we going to hold it to a different standard? And then the condition 2 under general requirements, that we can't structurally alter to extend its useful life? Not sure
So I thought there was a different one, a different view. We flipped through. There, that one right there. So these are the updated plans. And what we wanted to make sure, because pole signs are not allowed, we set this up so that we could ensure that there could be some facelift to the sign while still complying with the ordinance. It's non-conforming, so they can't do structural alterations, i.e. make it a lot taller. So we're working within this envelope. So if we can take this drawing here that we're looking at on the screen and make it fit within the size that's already there, and they're painting it, and we're working within very tight parameters with the non-conforming section of our code. So we've set the condition up so that they have an envelope to work within, and then we'll review the plans based on that. The style, the look that they take that sign to could be just like this.
Did you have something to add, Mike?
If you had direct questions,
Is this the sign, does this sign meet the parameters that Ryan just laid out?
Michael McGlinty with Martinez and Associates, 2624 Airport Drive. The parameters which have been put forth by the planning department are acceptable to us. The Plaza Motel portion of the sign is smaller in this version than it is existing.
Okay.
The arrow, vacancy arrow sign, the Plaza Market sign, they're about the same size. What we would do would be to reface it, repaint the poles, and then redo the electrical portion of it to provide some either a lighted background or backlit letters on the sign.
So it was previously lit?
It was previously lit,
okay.
Right. So as far as the parameters that were, again, set forth by the planning department, we are in favor of those. Our goal would be to keep the sign, to make it become part of the building and make it become part of that corner, as it has been for the last 50 years. So,
I'm having trouble understanding the number 2. Maybe both of you can weigh in on this. Structurally altered to extend its useful life. So if he gets over there and it's all rusted on can he fix it?
We'll just have to review that with the plans. It's an interpretation that we're gonna have to make. We're within a very tight envelope here, so, and also if the commission agrees that this is what the commission would like to see here with the sign, we can move forward with that understanding, that that's what it's gonna look like.
Okay. I think that
We
answers.
would obviously want to make it safe. It is in the
That's
pedestrian
my
right
concern.
away.
Yes.
So if there's something that we can do to it to bring it back to what you see in front of you, but just make sure it's safe.
Because because that requirement is a little bit scary to me as far as, I mean, if it isn't safe, then are we just taking it out of the plan, or are we just allowed to fix it so that we can use it? But if we make that stipulation okay, thank you.
Further questions? No? I agree with both of the commissioners on the points that they have made. I also am kind of thrilled to see a different type of architectural style. Michael, Jason, Brian, having me talk to you guys over the years, that I really like to see some diversity within the city. I would certainly like to see the Boone Street piece go up, but hopefully this one will as well, and we'll see other diverse types of architecture as things go. There was one thing that was said by Michael that caused me just a wee bit of concern. I had envisioned for the sign, it would be repainted and the electrical would be put on, and I would assume that the electrical was going to have the feel of the period, this kind of Art Deco period and this kind of older sign. So I would have thought that it would have gone towards neon, and you were saying that you're looking at a possible backlit sign.
I think part of the design is that the face of it that you see is set back 2 inches from the blue border around it. So any possible lighting would be fit into that 2-inch strip.
Around
the perimeter of it to light it up.
Okay.
I'm not gonna,
So you're not looking at gutting it, putting a plastic panel up and backlighting it that way? You're not talking about that sort of thing?
Not necessarily. I mean, we're looking at all kinds of different options just to try to get that look. But in the initial design with the recesses on the building and the proposed recess for the face of the sign, we were looking to just add LED strip lighting.
Okay.
In colors to bring back that feel.
Mike, when you say not necessarily, doesn't that kind of leave the door, but not necessarily, but sure, if I get around to it, I might do it this way? Isn't that kind of what that means?
The plan was to inset lights.
Okay.
But if that's not possible because of, what we may find, then we can certainly look at other alternatives. But the goal was to put lights inset into it and just ring that thing.
Okay.
And then ring the indentations in the building as well.
Okay. Because I mean, I'd like to see that or neon, but that backlit kind of, I think, takes away from the nostalgic look of this 50s thing. I mean, it really becomes a modern kind of crappy sign then. Hey, well, then don't do it. Then don't do it. Now, would, within that envelope you were discussing signage-wise, would a backlit piece of plastic be allowed in that envelope, or would it not be allowed?
Changing the face to backlit could be allowed within that envelope, so if the commission wants it to be neon or you want it to be very similar to the original style, we can just make that clear that that's the intent here.
Okay. That would be my preference, is to make it as close to the original as possible, but yes, sir.
I thought that we had an ordinance that we didn't allow neon signs. Am I mistaken?
I I don't think let me double check.
I don't know where I got that idea.
Definitely pole signs, so we
Okay.
know that this is non-conforming, but before I answer, let me look really quick on the neon part. But whether it is or not, it's non-conforming, so the whole thing is
So
non-conforming.
so we could allow neon in this particular
I'd say
sign
the commission has the
regardless.
discretion to.
Okay. So we could condition it that it's acceptable?
Yeah, that's because it's non-conforming
Okay.
already.
Okay.
Could make it atomic if we want to, I guess.
Well, I'd just like to add that I think the neon lighting would look great, you know, I mean, I think, you know, like you mentioned, Chair, I think, you know, having that eclectic and sort of nostalgic look, I think adds to the whole character of the thing. I mean, I think the sign could make or break the whole thing, really, but that's just my opinion. I think it'd be wonderful to have the opportunity and the flexibility to do something like that.
Okay, that's comments from me. I would say, the final thing I would say from my standpoint is I would rather see us condition to stick as close to that kind of nostalgic look for the sign, be it neon. I suppose it could be the ring, but I really don't like the more modern backlit panel, and if we could condition that, I would appreciate that. But other than that, I think it's just a really neat little project, so.
Okay, with that, I'm going to move that PD 2019-005 is approved with the following recommendations from the commission, that the staff has the understanding that the commission likes the design of the sign pole, and we are not opposed to, we would rather see it in a time period to match the Art Deco design.
Does that work,
Does that
Ryan,
work?
to seal off the back panel thing?
I'm sorry, I was looking up neon. Got me going on that way. I'm not seeing any.
I'll bet he can't,
can't.
but I'm rooting for you.
Dang it.
Sorry.
It's doing so good, too. Okay.
I'm not finding anything about neon.
I don't know why I thought that. Thank you for looking
Did
it
a
up.
search, I don't see it, so.
I always had that in the back of my head. I'm not sure why. Did I make a motion? Is it out there?
You were in the process of making a motion.
Okay, so so PD 2019-005 recommend that approval, and with the understanding that
Ryan?
We're going to the slide here that has the condition changes, so you can use this for your motion. There you go, as amended.
Okay, so we'll do that with the amended conditions as shown from staff, with the addition that the commission does like the design of the sign and would like to see it done in the period of the Art Deco as well as the building, to match the building.
With the lighting being also of a period.
With the lighting being of the same period.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
Does that get the gist of it?
A second.
Good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carries. Good luck, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice design,
Are you getting, okay. It's a cool design. Yeah. And you're going to so enjoy going into it for the first time ever. Did you go in? Oh.
So donuts there, and then the donuts across the street, then there.
And then you get an umbrella or whatever it is they've got out front.
You're good.
Who the hell needs anything else? Exactly. Plus, I mean, you're losing weight with that type of diet? Holy cow.
Actually, I haven't had a donut.
Oh, man, is that good? Good for you. Oral reports from the Planning Commission and/or staff.
Thank you, commissioners. We are looking at our fall, winter schedule and our next planning commission hearing. We don't have any upcoming study sessions yet. Our next hearing we have scheduled is November 6th, so in a month. And I just want to make you aware, we have some very large projects that we're working on right now, such as the Aquesta Apache Area 5 specific plan, and that's going through study sessions. And so an update on that, we are working on the environmental review and trying to get that document out for public review. So my goal is to get that document reviewed and finished so we can release it to the public. There's a month-long public review process for that. And so while that's out for public review, we're gonna look toward amending the specific plan based on comments we've heard and bring that before the Planning Commission in another study session. So you have something to look at and comment on. And then, based on that, schedule it for hearings after all the public review for the environmental. So, phew, that's that project. And we have a handful of other larger projects too. We have the Romer project, and we're working on all of the legal requirements for that one. That's on the east side of 101, near the 101 Broadway interchange. It's a large commercial project, and we're looking at a specific plan amendment to modify it. It had mixed use and a variety of things in an original specific plan, and the property owner is looking to change it just to straight commercial. So we're reviewing that, and we'll be bringing that before the commission. We have a couple other medium-sized projects, for example, one for a new truck center. It's actually sales for a truck, like an 18-wheeler type truck sale company, and repair. So that will be coming before you. And we have a handful of other things working their way through the process. Lineage is on hold because our environmental document was released and we received a lot of comments on it, and some from other state agencies that are big comments. So we're working with the applicant and their attorneys on how to address those. So as I bring this all up, because as we're looking at the future schedule, we do have a lot of projects, but they're not quite ready to be scheduled yet. So just keep that in mind, where we have a lot of empty Planning Commission hearings, but I don't want to say we aren't going to have them, because we need to keep them on the calendar if one of these projects is ready to be scheduled for hearings. So,
But as it stands right now, we don't have, to the best of your knowledge, we don't have any either study sessions or public hearings till November 6th?
that's correct.
Okay.
October 2nd.
It's the beginning of October,
so
a
in
month
a
away.
month.
I know. I missed that $75. Yeah.
We also, I'd like to revisit the commission's bylaws too at some point and schedule that as an agenda item, just to take a refresh and look at them and maybe update them. So I will be getting that on an agenda for you, hopefully by the end of the year. So that is all I have. Available for any questions.
Any further? Commissioner Blanco? Oh, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I had a question. General plan amendment, is it the update that has to be done by end of 2020, or our general plan update? Is it an update or is it an amendment?
It's a whole new updated, almost a brand new general plan. So we are going to City Council for the funding of that project and the contract with the consultant to kick it off. And we're scheduling that at council, the second meeting in November. So once the council approves moving forward with that and approves the funding for that project, then it'll officially begin the general plan update.
And when would be an estimated time of completion for that?
So we're looking at least 2 to 3 years. And then if the city chooses, for example, to look at any boundary expansions or annexations, there's a bigger, longer process associated with that component through LAFCO. So that we don't know exactly how long that would take. But just for our updated general plan and our new goals and policies and all the legal requirements, a couple of years.
Thank you.
Commissioner Blanco?
Yeah, I did. So what is the Lineage project? I'm not familiar with it.
So Lineage, it's an existing company on Blosser and
Stoll.
Stoll.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm getting Battles and Stoll mixed up on Stoll. It's a large property with a freezer on it. It's a company that does flash freezing of berries, and they've been there since the 1950s. And they've had some buildings on the property over time that have caught on fire, and so we've issued some demo permits to demo burnt buildings, and they've come in with an application to build a new freezer facility. It's about 170,000 square feet.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, Commissioner. When she's talking freezer, she's not talking like in your
Big
your
freezers.
kitchen.
Big-
I walked into this place before. It's unbelievably huge and
Yeah.
cold and frozen. It's a different world.
It's pretty neat.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had heard of the project. I didn't know it was called Lineage, so that's
Yeah, that's
good to know.
the name of the company.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions? No? I got a question of legal. Do you have any type of update on mobile signage? I see more of them. Some of them have become musical, mobile music signage. They're lit. They're both visual and noise polluting. What do we, I know we were working on it in past administrations, so what's the scoop?
We are not working on it presently, but it is in our goals to get finished by this year.
Okay.
Right now, there's just 2 of us. We hope to have a new person within the next month, potentially by the November 6th meeting. So he or she might be here along with me. It is on our goal list. We're gonna try to get it done. I mean, we could push something out, but it wouldn't be good. So we want to make sure we get it right when we do it.
So you actually think in the next 90 days, you'll be able to pull that together by the end of this year?
No, fiscal year.
Fiscal year, I see. The next 9 months then? Okay. All right, well, maybe sometime early then, January, February or so, maybe we can agendize it for a study session. You guys can kind of give us an update as to where you are on it. Does that seem fair?
That would be something we can do.
Okay, so there we go.
I'm just curious what you're referring to specifically, Chair. Maybe I'm not as familiar with that as.
Wandering up and down the streets of various parts of the city are these little trucks with a mobile billboard.
The big trucks, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
but
big
they're
trucks.
all lit up, and sometimes they have music, sometimes they don't, sometimes it's daytime, sometimes it's not. I also noticed that, because I came up on the side of one of them, and it's becoming a cottage industry, because I noticed that the one was a new sign, and I was like, oh geez, that's kind of a bummer, somebody bought another truck. No, it's becoming a cottage industry. Now there are people who are renting out that billboard space. So when I came up to that truck, if you look on the side of the truck, where the cab is, then it says, so-and-so, signage rental company. So now you can actually start renting those, and it's getting out of hand. It's, like I said, it's just noise pollution, visual pollution, so. Anything else? Adjourned.